Hello, this is Lawrence Wigby, and this is my presentation on the most important modern invention. So, what is the most important modern invention? Well, there's a lot to choose from, obviously, and a lot of them are interdependent upon one another. The internet obviously depends on computers. It's really hard to imagine the internet existing without some kind of computing device, and telecommunications help facilitate that. That's sort of like you know, making phone calls led to making emails, and just that laid the kind of the infrastructure was there already for the internet. Obviously, transportation is huge. What's the point of calling someplace there isn't something on the other side? And um, radio. Obviously, any invention requires that a certain number of the population are healthy and don't really have a lot to worry about. So, agricultural innovations and innovations in medicine, those are a big part of getting society to a place where you can make all these innovations. So, there are so many inventions that are just really important. So, it's hard to single one out. But I went ahead and did, and I went with the internet. And why did I go with the internet? Well, I think it's caused the most rapid social, economic, and cultural changes in a short time. I really don't think there's anything else within a couple decades that's really had the impact that it has on the world, and in so many. Basically, it's touched every aspect of the human experience, and it's increased the speed of invention itself. So it's an important invention because now inventions happen a lot faster because information is pretty much there at your fingertips if you have a computer or smartphone, and uh, just with the collaboration and the experience that you gain by the interconnectivity of the internet. And another reason I picked it was because it was observable within my lifetime. I can kind of claim myself as a primary source on this one in some ways because I have observed innovations and in the internet in my lifetime. I can remember having to do presentations in high school, and when I did, I'd have to go to the library, check out books, and you know read paper books and take notes. And I've had to do, and I was able to put together this presentation from the comfort of my own home with a computer. So that's a big change and that I've observed within my lifetime. So let's go to the early days of the internet, and we'll talk about who invented the internet. And could have been this gentleman, Al Gore. Some of you may remember. Uh, Former Vice President Al Gore, in his bid for the presidency, kind of was misquoted to have said that he claimed to have invented the internet, which is kind of something that kind of got out of hand. He didn't really claim that. A lot of people say he didn't claim that. A lot of pioneers of the internet said that he, in fact, was instrumental in working on the political side of things to get the internet off the ground and to kind of help it along, help its development. So, no, maybe he didn't invent it, but he certainly was a contributor. So, no Al Gore. So, who do we credit with inventing the internet? Well, this gentleman, J.C.R. Licklider, was at MIT, and in 1962, in some memos he wrote, he spoke of a galactic network, and basically he was one of the first people to envision this sort of place where humans could interact with computers, and computers could communicate with one another and basically just share information, and multiple users can use one computer from a remote location. That was kind of his vision. And he shared that with his predecessors at the Advanced Research Projects Agency, which he was the director of, ARPA. ARPA is an agency that was set up by President Eisenhower, just a scientific research agency for the government and military. And his predecessors there, Ivan Sutherland and Bob Taylor, were both influenced by his ideas about this galactic network. And he was also able to influence one of his colleagues at MIT, Lawrence G. Roberts, who was a researcher at MIT. So this gentleman, Leonard Kleinrock, in 1961 he wrote a paper, and then in 64 wrote a book about packet switching theory. And that doesn't mean much to people who aren't computer science savvy. I certainly don't know that much about it, but it was a big deal because prior to the packet switching, they were using circuits, and apparently that was really inefficient, and it really wouldn't have worked it just would have made the internet a lot slower. So this idea kind of helped get things off the grounds, because Lawrence G. Roberts took that information, and he met with Thomas Merrill. I don't have a picture of Thomas Merrill, but I hope that's a fairly accurate representation of what he stereotypically would look like. And in 1965, Roberts and Merrill, one in California on a Q32 computer and one in Massachusetts on a TX2 computer, connected the computers through a low-speed telephone line, and that was the first wide-range network. It was just a network of two computers, but that was the first time it happened. And they used this experiment to confirm Kleinrock's ideas about the packing switching theory, which they did. It was much more efficient and viable than circuits. So Lawrence G. Roberts proposed in 1968 to ARPA the ARPANET. And ARPA funded research and development for the network, and they employed Bob Kahn, who's kind of the architect for the network, and they contracted out the hardware installation to a company called BBN, and there was a 9-man team led by Frank Hart, and they installed hardware technology based on the packet switching, and that was sort of the rudimentary design for the modern router, which connects computers today. And so they created the ARPANET. And ARPANET went online in 1969. Originally only connected 4 computers, one at UCLA, one at Stanford, one at UC Santa Barbara, and one at the University of Utah. And then in 1970, they added another node at the BBN site in Cambridge, Massachusetts. So that got to the East Coast. And then in 1973, they added the Norwegian Seismic Array, NORSAR, in Norway. And so Norway was the first country other than the US that was connected to the ARPANET. And then by 1981, they had 213 host computers and were adding one approximately every 20 days. So those are the early days of the internet. Moving on. So getting to the modern internet, there was a long process of just kind of innovation and just kind of process making everything work more smoothly. There's just a lot of different networks that they kind of had to consolidate. And this is a timeline of how that happened. You have the in the purple, and then the blue you have agencies and committees that were kind of directing the research and development of the ARPANET. And on the bottom you have a bunch of milestones that they hit. You can see there on the left the TCP/IP invented, and then ARPANET transitioned to TCP/IP in the mid-'80s. And that basically was getting everything on the same page, so that everything was in the same language. And then there in the mid-'90s, you have the World Wide Web, and that's what really allowed you to start accessing all the information that was there. And then along the bottom, they show the operational networks and how they've grown from 3 in the 70s to all the way to 50,000 in 1995. And those aren't computers; those are networks. Those are the number of networks. And the internet has always been a collection of networks, not a single network. So the modern internet. Let's talk about 1982. The term internet was first used, And then in 1984, the domain name system DNS was established. The domain name system is basically just the addressing system that we use, .com, .net, so you can find specific web pages in the vast internet. Then in 1985, the Quantum Computer Services debuts. And you may not have never heard of that, but they changed their name to America Online, which you may have heard of. I know for many people in my generation, including myself, America Online was my first experience with personal computing. It was kind of a package that had email, news updates, web browser, and instant messaging kind of all wrapped up in there. And that was one of the things that, like that and services like that, really got people using the internet and kind of spread it around. This gentleman is Tim Berners-Lee. And Tim Berners-Lee worked for CERN, and so he was one of the original users of the ARPANET and Internet. And he kind of basically, originally it was just a big collection of information, and it was really hard to find any of that information. So he developed a hypertext system that could basically link pages together, and you could jump from page to page using links on the page. And that was before that, it was pretty much just typing in addresses to find the information. And so he was an innovator in that, and he developed that back when he was at CERN. Then this gentleman, Robert Caillou, wrong Caillou. Yeah, that's Robert Caillou. And he partnered up with Tim Berners-Lee later on and helped him develop Mosaic. So Enquire was the original language that Tim Berners-Lee came up with back at CERN, and then he eventually developed it into World Wide Web, which everyone is familiar with now. And then Mosaic is a very early search or web browser. Sorry, so you have the web pages linked together, and then you have the web browser that allows you to surf the web. And moving on, 1989, the World debuts as the first dial-up provider. So dial-up allowed pretty much anyone to access the internet as long as you had a phone line. So that really made the internet much more accessible. And then in 1990, Archie was created at McGill University in Montreal. And what Archie is one of the first, if not the very first, search engine. So, having a web browser isn't that useful if you don't know how to find things. So Archie, along with a lot of other search engines, were developed, and that was the first attempts to index all the information on the internet and kind of make it searchable so that you could find things. In 1999, there was a dot-com boom, which basically a lot of new companies were going online. A lot of existing companies were creating an online presence, and that really expanded the internet very rapidly. So a lot of people got rich really quick, and a lot of companies failed, and a lot of people went broke. But yeah, there was a lot of development in the internet there, and that was really the first time that the kind of public investment of the internet started happening. It wasn't just in the control of DARPA and other government agencies. It kind of went into the hands of the public and private industry. 2003, you got MySpace, followed by 2004 Facebook. So that's where social media starts stepping in, and that's really affected society and changed how we interface. In 2005, YouTube, cat videos, very important. And 2006, Twitter. And so these are things that obviously are kind of offshoots of the internet that have really changed our culture, really, and just changed the way information travels. And so what was the intent of the internet? Well, let's see. Was it trafficking porn? No. Spreading cynicism? No. Cat videos? Yeah? No. Well, what is she? Online history courses? Nope, afraid not. So what was the intent? Well, let's see what one of these guys has to say. It seems reasonable to envision, for a time 10 or 15 years hence, a thinking center that will incorporate the functions of present-day libraries together with anticipated advances in information storage and retrieval. The picture readily enlarges itself into a network of such centers connected to one another by wideband communication lines and to individual users by leased wires services. In such a system, the speed of the computers would be balanced, and the cost of the gigantic memories and the sophisticated programs would be divided by the number of users. And that is from Mr. Licklider, and in his Man-Computer Symbiosis, he wrote in March 1960. So you can see that he was very forward-thinking here. And a lot of his ideas kind of came to fruition. Basically, he was just wanted just a well of information to be accessible to pretty much anyone, and he really saw that, and it kind of it's I mean it's become more than that, but yeah, that's his vision kind of came to pass, which is pretty amazing. So what has it become? Well, it's definitely a tool of convenience. Pretty much, you don't really have to, like with the internet, with an internet connection, you don't really have to leave your house anymore. You can order food to your house, you can order clothing, you can pretty much anything that you need, you can order to your house through the internet. Anything you want to see, you can kind of see. Obviously, not the same as being in person for now, but maybe eventually you can kind of have those experiences online. But yeah, it's made life a lot more convenient in a lot of ways. Increased the quality of living for a lot of people. It's a great tool for gathering, storing, and accessing information for everyone. Like I already talked about my experiences in research before, as opposed to now. It's made research so much easier, and yeah, everyone with smartphones now. I mean, there's really no question that you can't have answered right away. You can just look it up. You don't even have to type anything. You can actually ask your, a lot of phones are equipped now with sort of a quasi AI that'll answer questions for you. It's been a tool for social change. A lot of the way information spreads through the internet is just so fast, and there's been so many social changes that have happened in the past few decades. Just social equality, that sort of thing, has really been impacted. And I think a lot of that has to do with the internet, just the way information is moving, and just the way everyone has a voice now. It's really put pressure on those people in power, and it's making it a lot harder for people to get away with being terrible. And so it's been a great tool for social change. A tool for remote communication operation. This is where it gets a little interesting, because it's kind of replacing face-to-face or not replacing, but it minimizes the need for face-to-face interaction to the point that it's almost unnecessary to meet someone face-to-face. I mean, you might work alongside somebody on a project for months or years and never meet them. I'm actually in a class with all of you, and this is probably the first time you've heard my voice. So that's interesting, and I'm not sure if that's a positive or a negative. Only time will tell. But it's definitely allowed connectivity between people that wouldn't otherwise be able to connect. And a tool for socialization. The social media aspect. People being able to find other people. People who maybe just grew up in a small, secluded area and couldn't find anyone to connect with. Now you can find like-minded people on the internet, and it's a lot easier to socialize and find people, pursue your interests. So that's been nice. Yeah, so just altogether, I think, that's what I think is so great or maybe not so great, but why the internet has been such an important invention. It's just had such a great impact on society as a whole. It's infected, for better or for worse, every facet of our lives. Certainly here in the modern world, and yeah, in other nations, it's just spreading the farther we go. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens next. And these are my references for my presentation. Thanks for listening, and thanks very much.